Welcome to Trek Table, your Sunday weekly podcast holding Trek space for
Black, Indigenous, Brown,
women of color,
queer or otherwise,
and our allies. Hi, I'm your host, Alison or Dela, and today I'm holding Trek space for folks trying to figure out the things between space, science, spirit, and religion.
Ooh, hi, I am your co-host Claudia, and today I am holding Trek space for rule makers and rule breakers.
Hi, I'm your co-host Maya, and I'm holding Trek space for anyone experiencing long haul, chronic illness, and of course their caretakers. You all got to take care of yourselves as well.
Hi, I'm your co-host Maiamama, and I'm holding Trek space for family. The family that we're born with and the family we make.
Hi, I am your guest today, Aliza Pearl, and I'm holding Trek space for naps and generally just getting rest.
Yes. Welcome, everyone. Hello, Aliza. Welcome to our special guest. We so many wonderful things to engage with today for this Trek Table episode number 19, recorded on 7/11/21. We want to acknowledge that our team, most of our team and our digital equipment for the Trek Table and Outside In Theater are on the unceded lands of the Tongva, Chumash, and Quiche people, and many of our team are also on the unceded lands of the Ohlone people. We're grateful for these indigenous stewards of the lands and the ancestors who've come before, those are here now, and those who have yet to come. So let's breathe in all that gratitude for the land that you're on. If you don't know yet, we'll drop a phone number in the chat, actually, where you can actually text in to this number with your zip code and find out which indigenous land you're on. So I'll share that shortly. But let's breathe all those things in, yeah? Our Trek, what we're holding Trek space for, and these indigenous lands. Go ahead and take a breath in through your nose and out through your mouth.
Thank you for joining us today as we hold Trek space for women of color in front of our live digital audience on Outside In Theater's YouTube channel, as well as those of you listening on the podcast archive.
Yes. And we always start our show with who or what we're holding Trek space for. You had a chance to hear from the host table as well as our guest today, Aliza Pearl. So we invite those of you in the chat, those of you listening along, who or what are you holding Trek space for today? Drop that in our YouTube chat. We're super excited to see that. I'm seeing someone holding Trek space for all those who speak up for the compatibility of religion and science, that it's not just mutually exclusive, but they can be complementary. So yes, we want to breathe all that in as well. So thinking about all those things, and for all the future things that people are holding Trek space, I'm hearing the breathing already. Let's go ahead and do one more big breath in. And exhale. Yes.
Our opening track for this episode is titled Chicana Skies by the band Quetzal, off their album Quetzal. You'll be hearing several tracks by Quetzal throughout this episode of Trek Table. Follow them at Quetzal Music on Instagram and see our show notes or the chat for a link to the merchandise and more.
Yes, we're super grateful to Quetzal for their sharing of music. We want to welcome everybody again to episode 19 of the Trek Table. I'm your host and show creator, Alison or Dela. Season 2 of Discovery is my favorite season. I've been saying this all season now that we're in the second episode of this season. Super excited, giving you all my favorite disco feels. This away mission, Pike, Owosakun, get it, Owosakun. So happy to see you having so much to do. And of course, here comes Tilly and this gorgeous asteroid, all the things to figure out. The episode is entitled New Eden, directed by Jonathan Frakes. We're super excited to talk about it. We're going to explore questions of science, space, and religion. And wondering about the mycelial network as well. And this episode is super special to us because, as you heard in our open, we have Aliza Pearl with us today to help us do our Trek Table guest spotlight. So we're super excited. All right, so as we head into this short musical break, we want to invite our friends in the chat to go ahead and tell us, how do you enter Star Trek? How do you identify? Are you a newbie, a canon head, Star Trekking family, maybe a Star Trek fam, a Trek zaddy? Let us know. All right, so as we dig into this episode, New Eden of Star Trek Discovery Season 2, Episode 2, we're going to explore this episode in a couple of different ways. We're going to play popcorn recap and see if we can summarize that show in 2.5 minutes. Claudia's got Trek Table questions. We'll visit our guest spotlight today, Aliza Pearl. Claudia's got some questions about the drama in design. Maia's got looks for Runway. I'm going to braid it all together with Thematix. And of course, you know, we love that spoiler zone. So if you're holding on to feels about the end of this season, or even season 3, that's where you want to meet us. Of course, we're going to amplify some of our favorite women content creators through Signal Boost. Some final thoughts and our gratitude today.
We honor that people may be on their own journey viewing Star Trek Discovery. So during the bulk of the show, we will only discuss things that we can remember have been unveiled up through season 2, episode 2 of Star Trek Discovery. For other insights, join us in the spoiler zone.
Yes. So let's check in with our Trek Table assembled today. Our hosts for today, we're going to meet our guest a little bit later. So Table, can I first ask you to share your name, your pronoun, and any access check-ins? How do you identify as a Star Trek fan? And first and foremost, I want to welcome back to our show from season 1, one of our guest hosts. She's back today. What's up, Maiamama? Can I ask you to go first?
Guess who's back? Okay, my name's Maiamama. I go by she, her pronouns. I'm feeling pretty good, very happy and jazzed. I'm hydrated and ready to go. And I consider myself a generational Star Trek fan.
Wonderful. Maia, can I ask you to go next?
Hello. I'm Maya. I go by she, her pronouns. I watched a little bit of Next Generation as a kid, but am jumping back in these later times, especially during the pandemic. And I identify as sort of Star Trek light and Star Trek femme, which I think I just created that genre. So I welcome you in. And I'm also heavily sci-fi curious. So my access needs are mostly met. If you hear a growl, it may or may not be coming from me, as my co-pilot Chorizo is down at my feet.
Awesome. Welcome. Claudia, how about you?
Hey, hello everyone. This is Claudia. Pronouns they, their, she, hers. Visual description, I'm rocking my disco t-shirt. My access check-in is that I've got some allergy stuff going on. So I have got my Earl Grey tea hot. I will be sipping on it a lot. If you hear me cough or anything, it's just my allergies kicking up a storm. As always, I also have a muscle condition. So if I pull a face, it is not me pulling a face at something somebody has said. It's me pulling a face because my muscles are pulling me. Other than that, all of my access needs are met, and I identify, inspired by both of the Mayas, I identify as a generational Star Trek and poly sci-fi.
Ooh.
Yes, we love the language here at the Trek Table. Thank you for the oohs. That was very dramatic and awesome. Get it? The chorus of Mayas. I love it. All right. Thank you, Claudia. I will go last. Yeah, totally. Chorus of Maya. Feels like a Greek tragedy waiting to be written. I don't know. So, hi, I'm Dayla. My pronouns are she, he, they, and Dayla. Visually, I am a mixed Filipino ex-person with bluish black hair, shaved on the side, sitting in front of a green Filipino malong with a 33 and a third vinyl behind me, and my big old cheeks today. So I'm present. My access check-in is that I am honoring that we're in a digital live recording space and it's really hot where I am. So I'm trying to be bright and cheery as I sweat. And I would say I identify as a Trekkie, Trekker. Trek head is kind of how I've been identifying these days. I love the minutia. I come in with the canon knowledge. And yeah, super excited to be here. Our final business before we jump into our discussions here at the Trek Table is we just try to name our agreements, right? We know there's a lot of different ways to talk about Star Trek. This is kind of how we do it here on our show. So we want to first and foremost say welcome. Welcome to all who enter. Whether you're a newbie or you're raised in a Star Trekking generational family, we want to say welcome. Let's build this space together.
Whether you use Trek Table as your nerdy exploration or even as part of your self-care ritual, Trek Table is a weekly space to put down the world for a second and come into Trek space.
This is a space for Black, brown, indigenous women of color to be a fan, a geek, a nerd, and explore the vastness of the Star Trek multiverse.
Yes, Trek Table is also a place for our allies to come engage and explore as well. This is an opportunity for allies to hold space and focus for the insights, perspectives, and experiences that we may not be familiar with.
And now that we are all here, we remind you that we seek to build an environment of mutual respect and listening. We understand we're going to disagree, and that is part of the fun. But there's enough hate going on in the world. We don't want none of that in here. So please keep your phasers on stun.
Yes, yes. So those are all of our agreements today. Please, let's go ahead and take a second, and we'll do one more big grounding breath in this arrival sequence. Go ahead and take a breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. Thank you.
Well, this brings us to our first Trek Table question. This question will be posed to those here in the studio and to those out there in the YouTube channel chat. Question number 1. What is Starfleet General Order number 1, aka the Non-Interference Directive? What's it generally known as? What does it mandate? Extra points for describing the other variation on this concept. Extra points for anyone out there who can tell us what Clark's third law is. And that was a sampling of Hollenbeck Gonzo by the band Quetzal, our theme song today for our Trek Table questions. Now, question number 1 was a pretty intense one. And really, I put it out there for my cannon heads out there in the audience. What's Starfleet General Order number 1? Because, did y'all notice how they were, calling it by its different names and stuff in this episode? I was like, I see you, Pike. I see you calling it by different things. The Non-Interference Directive. Y'all, what's that mean? Dayla? I see you raise your hand, Maya, but I'm asking Dayla, I guess.
I was like, thank you. I think, I don't know that I have a right answer. I mean, when I keep hearing General Order 1, it feels like Prime Directive. That's what I know from starting in the Next Generation world. And I feel like I just resonate with Pike's order right before they go back up the stairs. Doesn't matter what happened, do not show them who we really are. So I feel like I'm gonna stop there because yeah, that's what I got. I was just like, all right, don't mention it. Don't tell them who we really are.
Maiamama, I saw you about to answer, but I'm still going to go to Maya. I'm going to go to Maya. I'm going to ask Maya, hey, what do you think, Maya? What is it?
Jump in the line. I was like, it sounds like one of those moments where they're referring to something in our world that we could look it up. So I was like, who's this Clark dude? And he's actually a sci-fi, Arthur C. Clarke was a science fiction writer. Right. And so they're basically referring to him as if he is, a thinker of the ages. So I think that's also how people see science fiction when you really are taking a look at it. Science fiction has done a lot to imagine new ways. And, we got the flip phone out of sci-fi. Right. And, Octavia Butler has a lot to tell us from her science fiction. So he's a human sci-fi. And then their Clark's Law is based on a philosophical concept that sort of added to that, what Pike was saying. I don't know if somebody else wants to make it more clear, but
Maya, I'm blown away.
Okay.
I love it. No, I'm blown away that you did the extra homework. You did the homework. I was hoping that one of our crew that was not actually familiar with Arthur C. Clarke would go out there and do some homework. I'm so deeply excited. Also, they built on the canon. They made a joke where they're like, well, in the future, this is what this rule would seem like. But Maiamama, I was doing a thing because I know you know the answer. You were ready to answer right away. What is General Directive number 1?
It's called the Prime Directive When We Feel Like It rule. And it's when they feel like it, then they totally follow it. But I did want to add on to what Maya was saying, because we also have Asimov's 3 laws of robotics, which is another thing that is just
They
it's
did not mention
Asimov's,
that in this episode, though.
I know, but I'm just saying that, like, it's similar to an author's, a science fiction writer's philosophies being put into our own real life, and even into, the way that we program robots and stuff, and it's really cool. But also, captains don't generally like following the Prime Directive unless it seems like it might be a lot of trouble if they get involved.
From our audience, Satterfield was just watching the Enterprise episode when Archer was like, until we have some kind of a directive to handle these kinds of things. And so I see you in the audience. That was funny. That was funny. I like it when they do that in the episodes. And Geek Filter gave us the Techno Mages from Babylon 5 did great as well. Okay, I need more details about that. We might have to, that feels like some great conversation. But Geek Filter was saying, no starship may interfere with the normal development of any alien life or society. And thank you, Geek Filter, for that definition. Here's the realsy truth of it. Star Trek never wrote it down for reals. So I did a whole bunch of research. I went into my embarrassing comic book collection, y'all. I went into like deep off-canon stuff. I couldn't find it anywhere. It's not really written down. It's just referenced. So I think Maiamama actually got the definition most accurate for the purposes of this conversation. And that brings us to the end of our Trek Table question number 1 for this week.
I love it. If you're having a great time with us today, we want to invite you to make sure to like and subscribe to the Outside In channel on YouTube. Visit them at youtube.com/outsideintheater. And we are back. That song, Matanzas, by the band Quetzal, is our little cue for us to know it's time for Popcorn Recap. The game is simple. We have 2.5 minutes to share chunklets of plot from this week's episode.
Okay, we are going to be talking about New Eden, story by Akiva Goldsman and Sean Cochran, teleplay by Vaughn Wilmot and Sean Cochran, directed by my boy Johnny Frakes. I shouldn't say that. I don't know Jonathan Frakes, and that's disrespectful, but I love his work so much. So directed by my boy Johnny Frakes. January 24th, 2019.
Yes. And we think Popcorn Recap is a little funny because Maya is a Trek newbie, sci-fi curious Trek femme. Maiamama and Claudia come from generational Trek family. And I love minutia. So it's a little fun. Our big question to ourselves is, can we get this done? I know Satterfield H might have a comment or a thought in the chat.
Brandon, please set 2.5 minutes on the timer. Can we get it done?
We're doing this.
So Burnham and Pike listen to Spock's personal entry, and Pike reveals that Spock committed himself to his psych unit 1 week after taking leave and requested that Starfleet not inform his family.
Yes, and then Discovery is like detecting another signal, and then Tilly's trying to figure out how to find it, and then Burnham suggests they stop jump warp to like track it, and then they do detect it, so they have to fly closer.
Stamets is seeing Culber, and we use the spore drive to travel to the Discovery, with the Discovery to the Beta Quadrant planet with a previously unknown human population.
And on the planet, like they go there because like there's this transmission that's been playing on a loop for like 200 years, since they left the planet Earth because of World War III.
Also, Tilly's experimenting on the asteroid sample, and she proves that she's a knockout.
so gorgeous. Okay, and then Pike tells Burnham to get Owosakun up to speed so they can lead an away team of the three of them to the surface, and they find this quote unquote primitive society with a new religion that has combined multiple human faiths, all the major ones of Earth.
And then, as this investigation continues, an anomaly produces an extinction level radiation shower.
And so Tilly is like in the med bay or whatever, and Saru's like, yo, you need to take care of yourself, girl. We care about you, or you should care about yourself or something. And then like this mysterious friendly ensign is like, because like Tilly is like, I need to solve problems, I need to do science, and she's like, oh, you can like save everyone from, I can give you ideas about saving everyone about the radiation by using this asteroid. And then she runs off in her pants.
So Burnham saw a red angel on the meteoroid, but she didn't mention it to the fact at first. But now she's seen it on the planet.
Yeah, so they're on this planet, Terra Elysium, and the Discovery crew keeps themselves a secret because of General Order Number 1. But Jacob's been paying attention because he's the scientist who's been tending to the beacon. They lie, and then he kidnaps them with some kind of bomb.
The landing crew escapes. Pike jumps on top of an active phaser set up by one of the young Terralesians, and they go inside the church and beam away. Townspeople think it's a miracle.
Okay. All right, here we go. One last major chunklet each, just to close out this segment.
All right. I'm gonna do my last chunk that will be Tilly. She's like on the she's on the space elevator, and she's like, wait, May Ahern, you're my high school classmate. And she does her research. She's like, you died 5 years ago. Are you a ghost?
And then Burnham convinces Pike to go down to Terra Elysium to tell the truth to Jacob with her super logic. And they trade a powerful battery to get a helmet cam.
And the last thing to say in this plot is the helmet cam that Pike reviews by himself shows the red angel from the visions. Dun, dun, dun. And that is the end of this episode.
That was close.
We were close. I just want to say that we did a lot. We do our own version, but if you are looking for an act by act breakdown with some fun detail, we always invite you to visit our friends at Women at Warp. Andy did this breakdown, this recap. We will drop the link in the chat, but you can always go to womenatwarp.com to check out their recaps on all the Star Trek things. And that was Popcorn Recap.
And if you are having a great time like we are, and you want to keep the dialogue coming, we invite you to like and subscribe on our Instagram at TrekTable and on Twitter at TrekTable1. Join our combos with the hashtags #TrekTable, #BIWOCTrek, #Star Trek Discovery.
Awesome. Welcome. And that was The Imaginaries by the band Quetzal off their album Imaginaries. And to play us into our very first segment of our Trek Table Guest Spotlight, we want to welcome and introduce to you all Aliza Pearl. She's an actor, writer, Trekkie, game master, and content creator. She regularly performs with Ripley Improv and the Star Trek-inspired The Improvised Generation. She's a co-host of Women at Warp and a pro game master who runs a monthly Klingon tabletop RPG called Blood of the Void. And I know that we got the chance to hear you at the very tippy top of the show where you talked about what you're holding Trek space for, naps and rest. I want to welcome you to the table, welcoming all that, and just ask you to introduce yourself to our Trek table assembled and our folks in the chat and archive. Your pronouns, your access check-in, and how do you identify as a Star Trek fan?
Okay, so my pronouns are she, her. My access check-in is I'm a little creaky today, so I'm like bending, trying to like get my vertebrae to loosen up. I even have a little heating pad back here, which is helping. And I have my like hand warmers on because my hands get creaky too.
Ooh.
And then how I identify as a Trek fan is that I am a Trekkie. I use the term Trekkie. I also love, I think Claudia said poly sci-fi. I think that's a great, yeah, that's me too. I love all sci-fi basically, even bad sci-fi. I will at least check it out because I just love stories that take place in our imaginations, in our imagined future, in space, places that we can't really fully access yet as humans. I love thinking about things that might happen there. And also, I guess I am a generational Trekkie because my dad is a Trekkie, and and my aunt and uncle are also Trekkies, and I watched Star Trek with all of them as a kid.
This is Claudia. I know that you recently directed and produced and hosted Slay with Ripley Improv, and that you're also the game master for the Klingon tabletop role playing game Blood of the Void. So we want to celebrate all of that. We definitely want you to talk about all of that. Also, frankly, I have been eyeballing your wrist warmers, and I need more details. They're not only super cute, they look super functional, so we need more details about that. But also, last week I was supporting Outside In Theater by checking out their other content on their amazing YouTube channel, and I saw this episode of the Improvised Generation, and I got so excited. I think it's amazing. And I know that you're part of that show as well. So could you tell us more about the Improvised Generation and how you got involved?
Yeah, so back in 2015, I was in an improv class, a narrative improv class with some friends. And one day in class, two of us just started talking about how much we love Star Trek and just got all Trekkie with it. And then a third person came in and be like, "You love Star Trek? I love Star Trek too." And so then we were talking. And the result of that conversation was that we should do a Star Trek show, an improvised Star Trek show. So fast forward, maybe later that week, we had a little meeting at the theater and we were talking about this Star Trek show we wanted to do. And a fourth person comes over and says, "You're talking about Star Trek? I love Star Trek. Are you doing a show? I need to be a part of it." And so that is how the four of us, the co-captains, co-created the Improvised Generation. So my co-captains are Sarah Mountjoy Pepka, Paul Hungerford, who you all probably recognize that name of Outside in Theater, and Matthew Pittner, who is also part of Outside in Theater. So the four of us founded the Improvised Generation back in 2015. We had our first season of the show live on stage at Impro Theater, which is a black box theater in Los Feliz, California, in Hollywood. And since then, we've done, I think, 6 seasons. And the last season we did, because of COVID, we completely transported the show into a digital format for so that we could all do it from home. And that's what you can see on Outside In's YouTube channel and also on our YouTube channel.
Claudia, did you want to ask your follow-up questions about her gloves?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, yes, please, would you? Because look at me, I'm wearing different. I
Yes.
have gloves on too, but your gloves heat up. Give me details.
No, they don't. I'm sorry, they don't. They're just
Oh.
keeping my hands warm because I had the AC on, and when I sit here with the AC right in front of me, my hands get very cold. I have fibromyalgia, and so when my hands get cold, they also ache and hurt. So I'm just keeping them warm with these. And basically, I have several pairs of these. They're made from socks. Like, I just take socks, even like fresh socks that I haven't worn. I'll just cut off the like toe part and then cut this little slit here for the thumb, and there you have it. You have your hand warmers. You can also make them warm up by putting little hand packets in here, like those little hand warmer packets. You can put those in. There you go. Yes, we are in sync. We have our heating pads and our hand warmers. We're good.
I love it. All the pro tips, all the things.
Pro tips.
Yes.
Pain management tips.
Yes. So I loved hearing that story of like the origin of the Improvised Generation, hearing how you're connected to other actors that, in your skill building. I know you you have such a wide range of things in your reel. It's been so great to kind of get to know you and like discover all these magical things. So I want to also give you a chance to talk a little bit about yourself as an actor. I heard you were recently in a musical about AI, and it was sci-fi. I think it's called Teaching a Robot to Love. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I have had the absolute honor and delight and pleasure of being cast as a main leading role in this musical called Teaching a Robot to Love. It's by a folk pop nerdy, geeky sibling musical duo called the Double Clicks, Laser and Aubrey. And they brought me in and a bunch of other amazingly talented people to be part of their original cast recording for this musical they created. It is full of heart and science and geekery and cheese, and it's just a really fun show that is beautifully written. The music is just soaring and bright and beautiful. We had a great time. 2 or 3 weekends ago, we actually all got together in a studio and recorded the whole album. So there's an original cast recording that you can pre-order now. And I think that link will be floating around somewhere for people to access. And that comes out this fall. So yeah, it was an amazing, it was also like an amazing experience for me as someone who, like you said, I do a lot of different things. And the through line for the past several years has been like space and sci-fi, even with my acting work. And I just want to, for anyone who's watching who feels like they haven't found their niche or their groove in life, lean into what you love, because literally all I've done differently from when I started as an actor 15 years ago in LA, the only thing that changed for me was that I decided to start leaning into what I love instead of thinking, what do they want to see from me? Like walking into the room, trying to be a role rather than bringing what I love into the role. And that's all that has changed for me. And I kind of have fallen into this space of doing gaming and being a dungeon master and a game master and doing sci-fi AI musicals, and like everything is kind of aligned now because I just like have been following my passions.
I'm moved by that idea of doing what you love and being able to make that work for you. I just did something where I, instead of doing a poetry reading, I decided to make a space telenovela about Central American unicorns in space. You know, I'm like, I don't know if anybody else is interested in that, but that's what I need right now. So
I'm interested.
Yeah.
Oh, I want to
Yeah.
watch it.
Yeah.
Or read it.
And so, yeah. And also, I guess I want to, without trying to gush too much about it, touch on about working with women at Warp. And also I saw the interview you did with Kennedy Allen, with what I think is the first Afro-Puerto Rican in space, Wilson Cruz.
Yes.
The love of my life. Everybody knows that at this show, but now you know.
Space
and so
Daddy.
now that you're and now that you can that you're best friends with him, I'd like you to see when his Hugh Colbert action figure will be coming out, because I need that. And also, can you tell us a little bit about what it's been like to talk Star Trek with other women, and why you were seeking that kind of a specific space?
Yeah, so thankfully, Women at Warp invited me to join the space they had already created last summer. I had met them and was aware of them and had worked with them, I think starting in like 2018 or maybe a little bit before that. They had invited me to come and be a panelist at their Star Trek Las Vegas convention panel. And I think that's how I met them in real life. But then I had been, you know how we meet, like you all, like, you meet people on the internet, you work with them, and then you meet them in real life. That's kind of how normal life is now. So that's how I was introduced to the group. I got to know them that way. I started listening to the podcast that way. And then last summer, they invited me and a couple of other awesome ladies, Kennedy Allen being another one, Sarah Miyoko being the other. They invited us to join their regular crew. We all had guested as well at certain points on the podcast. So I was very grateful to them for bringing us into their space that they had already set up and cultivated, and getting to talk about Star Trek through our specific lenses and through our life experiences is really special. I also have the experience of being an improviser in LA and in the improv community, and I feel like there's some parallels here, because with improv, there's a lot of like the main, like the main demographic of that community is very white and very male, and very straight white males at that. And so when you're coming up in the improv community, you can definitely be a part of it. Some people can be welcoming, some people might not be, but you kind of have to like carve out your own space if you want to like last a while in that community. Otherwise, it can kind of start to feel isolating or feel like you're always defending your existence on in scenes and on stage. And one way that felt good for me to show up in that space was to be a part of an all-Black improv team called Essence. And so that was another really great thing that came out of improv for me, which was like being part of this all-Black female group. Similarly, Women at Warp has carved out this space, as you all have carved out a space for yourselves to be women of color in this space of Trek fandom. So you don't have to explain your existence. You don't have to explain what it means to be a woman or a woman of color or indigenous or Black or brown or all of those things. You just can show up, and then you start the conversation so much further ahead because you don't have to catch people up on who you are and why you exist.
Yes. Yes.
love
Yes,
it.
frankly, it feels like this is how you shift and change culture. Like you maintain white dominance by having white dominant spaces, and this is how you shift and change culture by making spaces that reflect all of us. I know that I feel more welcome in a community when I can see myself actually being a part of it. Could you tell us a bit more about the Women at Warp Infinite Diversity and Infinite Combinations podcast festival? I feel like that's a little bit of an example of the good work happening, and we're very excited to be there next Saturday on July 17th at 2:15 Pacific Coast time. But what can we and other folks expect at the festival as a whole?
Yeah, so my colleagues at Women at Warp put together this podcast festival. I can't take any credit because I was off directing Slay. they were like taking care of this festival all throughout the spring and early summer. But yeah, they put together this festival because they saw that, number one, on Twitter, there had been a couple of threads going around Star Trek Twitter of podcasts like ours, like Trek Table, like Women at Warp, podcasts that are run by people who are from marginalized communities and people who are usually like the token or the only person usually at the table in Star Trek conversations. And so there just seemed to be already a hunger for that, for those podcasts, for hearing those voices. And so the Women at Warp crew, they were like, what if we get them all together in a podcast festival? Literally, infinite diversity and infinite combinations is one of the like main tenets of Star Trek culture from the Vulcans. Like, let's put that into one place so that people can now like take that content and have it together. So they put together this awesome festival. Looking at the schedule, you'll see that there's lots of different amazing angles that people are taking and what they're bringing to this festival. There's like the super academic, highbrow, like theoretical lens talk of Star Trek topics. There's also people talking about specific episodes, talking about specific cultural elements that they recognize. And there's people just talking, just enjoying having that Trek space, as you all say. So I think whatever type of podcast is your type of podcast, like whatever type you like, there's something for you to find in this festival for sure.
Definitely. We're so excited to be in that. And I feel like this whole time I've just been nodding this whole segment. So I just want to say, visually, if you're listening on the archive, you can't see how much my head looks like a bobble spot. Okay, we're gonna close out. We've got a little. We've reached the end of this segment, but we want to push time because we have a question from the chat that I want to amplify. Do you have any projects that you're doing, Aliza, collaborating with Black youth? One of our chatters wants to know if you're doing youth work right now.
I'm not, but I have had that in the back of my mind. And if anyone does have any suggestions, I'm open to those. You can tweet me about them. Just please don't be overbearing. Just tweet about it once and like, please don't pester. Just have to say that. Just want to be clear about boundaries.
Yes,
but
boundaries.
Please do if you do have any programs that you want to bring to my attention, please do tweet me them. And specifically, if anyone, what I've been wanting to do actually is to teach kids who are like me, Black and brown kids in inner city environments, teach them tabletop RPGs. because that is something that I never learned until I was like well into adulthood, and now I'm doing it professionally. And can you imagine where I would be if I had done it when I was 12 years old? I didn't know it existed until I was like, maybe late 20s. So I want to like break open that world for people who are younger and see what they get out of it, what they can get out of it, and what they bring to it too. So if anyone knows of any programs or schools that might be, interested in having someone come teach the kids, please let me know.
Yeah. Awesome. And I'm just going to say out loud that I know that Maiamama, one of our hosts today, she also does a Gaming for Justice piece. So like, I just feel like there's a lot of connections that we want to keep building with folks. So yeah, we want to open that. All right. So my last question to you for this segment, as we have to wind it down, I'm just going to say you get to come back whenever you want. So we'd love you to come back whenever you want.
Yay.
But our last question is, we're about to jump into this season 2, episode 2, New Eden, on Star Trek Disco, and I'm wondering, any in your rewatch, any off the kind of top of your head, like things that are jumping out to you about this episode? We're just curious, like, yeah, where do you land in the New Eden dialogues and discussions today?
Well, I love this episode because I love planet side episodes. I love when they go step on a planet and they have to figure things out. And that's like my jam in terms of TNG. Any iteration or in terms of Star Trek, any iteration of Star Trek that does that, I'm like, ooh, I'm in. So that when I first saw the episode, that definitely was what drew me to it. And then doing the rewatches, knowing how this season ends and then rewatching these episodes, it's really cool to see how masterfully they put these puzzle pieces in place, knowing what the signals will become for everyone, and the Red Angel and all that imagery. I love that. I think this season of Discovery is amazing because they took the Red Angel and those signals and they made that like the top layer, and then they let several different strings hang down from them, and each episode follows a different string until you get to the bottom layer, which is the whole story. And I think it's just a really well constructed season for that reason.
Thank you for that non-spoilery answer as well.
Oh, good. Okay,
that was awesome. You did great. That's right.
Because I'm the only one who hasn't watched all the way through.
Oh, okay. Cool.
So I'm like, what the hell is this?
Mean team. And we honor there are folks who are watching with us or are in conjunction with us at different times. So I'm always getting random messages from people about where they are in our seasons. Yeah. Nice. Awesome. Well, I want to say thank you so much to our special guest today, Aliza Pearl. We're so glad that you got to take time out of your busy schedule to stop by. We've dropped several links in the chat of things you were talking about, the Double Clicks Robot musical, Women at Warp, the Ripley Improv Slay. And I just want to hype that again. Like, if you really want to see some amazing women improvisers led by Aliza track this story around monsters, check out Slay. Super, super excited. You can learn more about Aliza at her website at alizapearl.com, and you can follow her on Instagram at Aliza. And Aliza, what's your Twitter? You offered people to tweet you if they want to share a program with you.
It's at Aliza Pearl. Same as my Instagram. Same exact thing.
Good job getting all the alignments on the social media titles. Yes.
Yes.
So yeah.
Well, I want to thank you all. Thank you so much for having me here. And this show is really fantastic. So thank you for what you do.
I know. I want you to come back and do Space Runway with us sometime.
I would love to.
But yes, thank you for those pearls of wisdom, making your own way, and see in the future. But if you want to learn more about our guests and get the first reveals for our weekly Trek Table questions, then join our mailing list today at checktablepodcast.com. Yay! What a beautiful interview.
Hey everyone, so we are back for the Discovery Design section. So we are going to dish on the design elements that were giving us all this drama for this season. Y'all, can we talk about a ready room? Because we got to see it in full effect. Can we talk about it?
Yes, I'd love to jump in here and just say, I'll start. Pike. Oh my gosh. Pike decided he wanted people to sit, and there are several shots visually that might come up for folks. He's got a couch. He's got a chair. I mean, it's just so much warm in there, and It does. And then shouts out to Johnny Frakes because some of those shot setups are. I want to sit in that ready room.
Yeah, no, I do think that, like, as a director, Jonathan Frakes made some choices that made that room feel warm. It made it feel inviting. It made me feel like, you know what, this is the kind of captain I could sit in that room and have a conversation with. Come on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, look at those vases. Those vases. Comfy chairs.
Well,
You know,
it's also
no table between them. There's no table between them at one point. Almost knee to knee.
It's also so. I mean, we finally have an actual real Starfleet captain. Because you know we didn't before.
Yeah.
And so it's something to see how an actual Starfleet captain operates and does his thing and decorates his ready room where it looks like a real ready room, where it looks comfortable and people can sit down and have a talk and there's not like kill machines somewhere.
I know. Lorca's aesthetic was a dark aesthetic. It was a dark aesthetic, and it was troubling. You're also just reminding me that this is what happens when you get new administrations. Like, they come in and they're like, we're redecorating. So, like, I like that Pike put his mark on things. I'm going to move us forward just because there are so many design elements to dish on. I'm about to get a little gossipy about New Eden. I like New Eden. New Eden had really interesting things, but it's 200 years old. They've been there for 200 years, is what I heard. 200 years. So, yes. So Jordan, what's his name? James Jordan. What's his name?
Jacob.
Jacob pulls out.
Jacob.
So Jacob pulls out this machine, and it looks real shiny. Am I wrong?
So my assumption is that because it was like the only piece of technology that he really had, he had to keep it in good condition. But also, perhaps terminal technology is disallowed in the future, the way that we have our technology now that is designed to become obsolete. Perhaps in what is it, like 50 years or whatever, whenever World War III is going to happen. They're like, how many?
30 is 2053 is one of the words.
Sorry.
Oh yeah. Okay, so
we're 20 years into this millennium.
But perhaps they're finally going to disallow terminal technology and technology that makes itself obsolete. And or maybe Jacob's family is like that sciencey that they were able to keep it.
Maiamama, I just want to say thank you for giving me a dream of a future where we're beyond capitalism and we're beyond creating things that break on purpose because we're being forced to make them again. A place that's designing beyond making new plugs every time you knew a new version to force people to buy new outlets. It's horrible. Thank you for that dream. Man, I had a real dumb question and you had such a good answer. Now that we're still on New Eden, so New Eden's vibe is we don't have a lot of technology. That's not our thing. Those stained glass windows were very pretty. They felt like the old school technology of like, oh yeah, we tell stories with our architecture, with everything. Everything tells a story.
Yeah, definitely. And Pike even says that in the episode. He's like, these were used to share stories visually. They were used to tell stories to people who could not read. And there's a shot, if you're watching the video feed with us, there's a quick shot of that 3-panel stained glass window with the soldiers and the bombs, the Red Angel in the middle, and then the bombs and the planes on the other side. And so I will say I felt a little kind of way. I don't know why I felt a little way, but like when Pike was saying to Owosokun and Burnham, like they use this for people who could not read. I don't know. I felt away. So I realized the stained glass is super beautiful. And they said it's like 200 years old, which means there were stained glass artisans in the saved. So the windows are definitely stunning, and I would say definitely positive. There's a lot of things in this episode I'm so glad I got to pause and look at because it's so pretty. So, and like I just want to shout out the production designer, whose name is Tamara Deverell. Like so much gorgeousness happening. So yeah, that's my thoughts on the stained glass.
but I think I'm almost ready to have a Star Trek fight with you, Dayla, because I think it's actually a beautiful, good thing to be able to acknowledge that everything is technology. Like, we like to label some things as like, this is technology because it was fancy and made of metals and plastics and we just made it. But like, there are old technologies, there are low tech technologies that sometimes the best practice in the best way. So I found the moment of stained glass as tech. I find it moving.
Yeah, but also wasn't Burnham at the book, the like puzzle piece
Pike was.
book of
Yeah.
Pike was at the book, and then he turns to that. I mean, I just know there are different moments where they were like, well, do we really need to read all of this? Because, you know, it's on the wall. But I do agree with that. I mean, that books are technology too. And they refashioned and repurposed that technology. And I'm also thinking, like, how did they keep those windows from breaking? And if they did break, I mean, I don't know what it is that they're mining or working in the fields to get. So maybe they're working, you know, they figured out how to make windows. They've figured out to make some oils or something to keep that electricity or electronics going. I mean, you know, it seems like they have a lot of time.
They're struggling though, because like one of the big plot points is that the battery in the church doesn't work and like they can't get the lights on, and like, so like it's interesting to think about a universe that has people living their full best lives with all that technology, and then a planet where it's like they're struggling to keep the lights on, and that's a realness for them. But I'm going to go back to Discovery because there's one more thing I want to ask y'all about. Wearable tech. Tilly, gotta love Tilly. She was like wearing those For Future early 2000 aesthetic, like virtual reality goggles. That was an amazing look. In that scene, she's like, "Ooh, hello, gorgeous." There's this pretty blue glowing rock that I said will KYTFO. For those of you who are old school message board nerds, KYTFO means knock you the F out. And that's exactly what happens with that beautiful little glowing rock. How are we feeling about Tilly and this technology and this asteroid and all of the stuff that's going on there?
I mean, I love that she has that box. Go, Maiamama.
Oh, it's just, I mean, I think it's so fascinating because it's so immense. The size of it. It's too immense for her to even study just the way it is. Like, she has to cut a piece out of it because it's just too much. And I really like that. I enjoy that. Like, I enjoy, and I also, you know, I enjoy that they're going to be using it later. Like, that's a really, you know, it's sustainable and in and of its own way. But I just love the immenseness of how giant it is, and how they were able to get that in the cargo hold, and then no one really knew what else to do with it, and they were just pretty much just like they were going to just have it sit there for a while until Tilly was like, "I'm going to go take care of this right now."
With the power of math.
She's not wearing any other protective gear. That's the thing that worries me. I mean, I'm glad that her eyes are protected. I mean, but she should have been wearing some.
Have we ever seen anyone with the elbow pad or a safety helmet? Like, you'd think that getting knocked around
or those vests.
You're bringing up really good points, Maya. These are very good points.
Yeah,
and I want her to be safe.
There's an image we pulled, Brandon, if you could show that image of Tilly just after she says hello, gorgeous, the asteroid like says hello back, and she like ends up splayed out on the floor. It's a really interesting shot of her like holding the box, and I love that image because I'm like, right, we get to see her shoes, like she's bleeding out the side of her head. Like, that's not a good thing, but I just wonder, like, she's cutting at the asteroid. It felt like the asteroid cut back when she bounced against things.
Energy meet energy.
Oh, snap. Yeah. I was just thinking, what's up with there not being enough CCTV on this gigantic ship where that kind of an accident can happen, and she's just by herself in a cargo hold. So here's another question. Poor Tilly. We're watching Tilly just flat out laid out on the ground right there. Dang,
The size
yeah.
of that thing.
I know it's huge. It's big, and Discovery is a gigantic ship. Like, we are often reminded of the immenseness of this ship in moments like that. I want to ask another question. We've been talking a lot about visual design. I want to reflect a little bit about the audio design. I don't know why I think I'm cute calling Jonathan Frakes by a nickname that I personally made up as a joke during one of our episodes, but it feels so good and I keep wanting to do it. So I don't know if that was a choice from like a sound designer or a character choice, or if it came from Johnny Frakes. But Ariam's voice. Is it Lieutenant Ariam? She's like, she's on the bridge.
Lieutenant Commander, yes.
Did anyone else notice that, like, there was like there's something to the voice?
Well, it's they put, it sounds like, I do not know this for a fact, but it sounds like there's a low level electrical noise in the carrying with her voice to make it sound not artificial but augmented, because it is, and I think that's it's a really cool touch, very cool touch.
I loved it. Okay, one last shout out to, I keep shouting out Johnny Frakes. It's a thing, I guess. It's a thing with this episode. There was another fun moment that we were mentioning from Tilly and Tilly in her pants.
So the whole gag was put together with Johnny Frakes, and Kurtzman had no idea it was going to happen until he watched the dailies, and then he just cracked up because it was hilarious. It was great.
That joke is always funny. That I'm confidently going in one direction, and now I have to run around and go in that right direction. Always a funny joke. Do we have any reflections on a Wusakin and the lock picking as a Luddite? Like, again, just like reflecting on different ways of using technology, old school tech.
You know what? When you don't have technology, life must be boring, and so you got to figure out some other hobbies. Maybe lockpicking was a hobby of hers.
No. A Wusakin was raised on a Luddite colony.
I know.
That's one of the.
Yes.
So you're saying
because she was so bored. She was so bored. She's like, let me see if I can figure out how to unlock a bunch of locks. That's her hobby. Maybe that's her hobby, which is cool. What a cool hobby to have.
She knew right away. She was ready. I mean, Burnham and Pike weren't even awake yet, and she was already up on the stairs
like,
pushing, like solving a problem. Yeah, dude. All props to Lieutenant Commander Joanne Wosaku.
Yes. Well, I feel like we have had a lot of amazing design elements to reflect upon, but we should move ourselves on to our next topic. So that is all for Discovery Designs this week.
Yes, and we want to remind folks that you can join us next Saturday, July 17th at 2:15 Pacific Coast Time for Women at Warp's Infinite Diversity and Infinite Combinational Podcast Festival. We're going to look at next week's episode, Star Trek Discovery Season 2, Episode 3, Points of Light. So you can dish with us on tech and hear us talk about this on Saturday. And if you miss us live with Women at Warp, you can catch our exclusive Trek Table rebroadcast on Sunday the 18th at our regular showtime at 4 o'clock.
And as we head into our next musical break, we'd like to share with you Trek Table question number 2. What do you think about the ban on genetic manipulation? Like, should Stamets be continuing with this flying on Discovery? Welcome back to our Star Trek question number 2. What do you think about the ban on genetic manipulation? This was an episode that had a lot of different rules being laid out and a lot of rules being broken. This is a rule that's a rather major rule throughout several different Star Trek stories. What do we think about this particular moment in genetic manipulation and Stamets being allowed to continue. I'm gonna encourage us to go quick. Maiamama, what's your quick take on this?
Okay, well, I think that Stamets doesn't cooperate well with doctors, therefore it makes it a lot riskier as far as things that can happen. But also, like all federation laws, it's all as needed. We have other people that I won't spoil that also are genetically manipulated, but they're still allowed to do their job. It all just depends on how much they like you. So-
Interesting. I am now intrigued by the spoiler thing you just did. Oh, we can't talk about it here though. Maybe in the spoiler section. In the audience, one of our audience members will just as has said, I'll just say, "Come on."
Yeah, right?
Dela, Maya, what do you think?
I would just say for a personhood, I wouldn't want Stamets to continue, but the ship needs to go. I don't know. I support it at a ideological level. I see the practical implications and wanting Stamets to be safe, juxtaposed with what Discovery might need. I see those hard decisions, so I have no answer other than to validate the quandary of this question.
Totally. Like, and shout out to our audience members who are working this out. Minda's saying, they heard that in Star Trek they would do genetic manipulation for different species to make babies, and like that's the reason. Like, there was an entire gigantic war. There was like huge amounts of violence, ultra violence that took place on Earth because of the genetic map. There's a reason for the ban. But Maya, what's your take on it?
Yeah, I mean, he was already going to distance himself from the spore drive and leave, but he's also, dealing with an incredible amount of trauma. It's like his partner passed away. The mycelial network is also sort of his baby. He was all busy with work, and now he realizes how much also he misses his partner. But I think there should be regulations, because homie is traumatized and he's not thinking about his own well-being, because he's just like, well, this is how I can contribute. I do science things. But I also wonder, like, the tightness of the regulations that there were during the war, and then it's like, well, war stuff, so we can untighten them. And then when there's no war, there's no stress to like develop it as a war tool. So now, in a way, Tilly seems like she's on a track to like figure out, how there to be less suffering towards Stamets in terms of using the spore drive.
Well, and yeah, I mean, I think you just nailed you hit the nail on the head, Maya, because this all went down when Lorca was in charge of the ship, when Lorca was a rule breaker and was allowing really shady stuff to go down. So exactly. So Stamets, but the thing is, cat's already out of the bag, right? Like, Stamets has already been genetically manipulated. What you gonna do? So I can understand the choice by the captain to say, in this instance, this person already had the genetic manipulation. We're not doing a new thing. We're just allowing the thing that exists to let us get to the next Red Angel sighting, and this is an emergency. I am concerned, though, that emergencies can let Starfleet make choices that it's not supposed to make. And y'all, that was our Trek Table question number 2. It got a little deep. Who knew?
Yes, but we knew, because we come to the Trek Table every week. And I just want to say thanks to everybody who listens to us on the archive, on the podcast. If you're watching us live in the chat, we see you, friends. I also just want to say we're trying to get our humble little Instagram account to 500 followers by the end of July. So if you are not already following us on Instagram, we invite you to find us at Trek Table. Will you follow us? Will you invite one other person to follow us? We're almost there, but we just need a little bit of Instagram love. So yes, we would love for you to join us. You can always hashtag Trek Table, hashtag BIWOC Trek, and hashtag Star Trek Discovery, so we can keep all our convos coming.
And now is that time in our ritual where we invite everyone to move around in their seats and screens, because it's time for our Trek Table dance break with Space Runway!
Yes, some of the eye-catching looks from function to fashion in the 23rd century. Space Runway. Welcome to Space Runway. This week we are doing highlights from season 2, episode 2, and there are 6 looks today. Look number 6, Man on a Mission.
Pike's broad shoulders were meant for more than yellow and blue command tracksuits. Here we have a cool guy from Mojave attempting to dress down and blend in his circa pre-warp Earth wear, in a waist-length pleather jacket that fits him oh so right, and a relaxed black sweater for relaxing by a fire.
Look number 5, Owosukun and Burnham in Luddite wear. Taking a lead from Owo's Luddite upbringing and Burnham's xenoanthropology notes, they raided the Federation's REI or Columbia Outlet replicator with a mix of baggy green pea coat for Owo and an oversized sweater with for Burnham. It looks like yoga pants and of course bags, and more bags. The future loves a cowl neck. Look number 4, hospital gown.
It's a wrap dress, comfortable with a hint of a futuristic shine, attaching the front so your booty don't show, unless you want it to. Looks good on both Tilly and Pike, and perfect for running down halls to the bridge.
Look number 3, first contact Jacob.
Yes, Jacob wears Jacob, family keeper of the technology of the before times, wears gray wrap clothes, probably made by hand with frayed edges, but it ties it all together with his secret space conspiracy theory apron.
Look number 2, cyberpunk safety goggles.
Ooh, Tilly's computerized goggles with blue lenses that analyze things like asteroids while being securely attached to your head like a headlamp. It probably does that too. Woo!
Look number 1, All Mother. Her bright red All Mother red gown is loose and yet sleek at the same time. The matching scarf she uses to cover her face during the moon welcoming ceremonies, plus a turquoise beaded sash, really say, all mother, all religions, don't talk to me about science because that's what got our ancestors into this mess. Or is it? And that's Space Runway for this week. Fashion, form, and function in the future.
All right, so we want to say welcome back to the Thematix section of this Trek table. We've had such a full and rich show. We're going to weave it all together a little bit and then jump right into spoiler zone. So I just want to, today we talked about in our newsletter, our Trek table newsletter, and as we started the show, that today we're thinking about space and spirit. And so I just wanted to go to topic number 1, the New Eden Church, religion in space. I mean, obviously when folks landed in Terra Elysium, they merged all of the Earth religions. Maya, you were just talking about how in design, book is a technology, and they merged all these sacred books together. And then I was struck by Pike actually having to ask Burnham and Owosukun that question of have either of you ever been in a church? So it just made me think about assumptions around spirituality and religion in space, whether or not disco, I don't know, does disco have a chaplain? Who is the space chaplain? Do they hologram that? But in general, I wanted to offer folks space at the table to talk a little bit about this episode and this spirit form of melding religions. How do does this feel new, different? Want to invite
it's very Unitarian Universalist meets a little bit of a, I don't know, a community that doesn't use electricity. I've been in Unitarian churches. A lot of them are great because they make space for community and organizing, but also it's a lot to try to hold together. But it's often the one space that people with multiple religious backgrounds or beliefs, or even non-beliefs, even agnostic or atheist or Wiccan, even can all sort of congregate. So that's the vibe it gave to me. Although I just always feel like there's something with the religion and not wanting to know about the past that scares me. It makes me think science is also, like knowledge forms. It's a form of a belief system as well, and a way of seeing the world. So I don't know. I don't like it. There's something little fishy for me about it. I understand that, again, there's like this trauma. They had to leave, and they think that what forced them to leave Earth is not maybe looking at the spirit or the scriptures, but then they've cut them all up and put them together, which is also kind of cool.
You know,
go ahead, Maiamama.
well, I was gonna say it's, we think that we assume that Michael Burnham's anti-religion thought process is probably based from her living on Vulcan, but I think she got it from her biological parents, because Vulcans are super spiritual. And I just think it's really interesting how she really is holding on to this almost anti-spiritualism, and I think that has a lot to do with her relationship with her space daddy, as it were.
I love it. Claudia, thoughts on this, or can I move us to topic number 2?
You can move us. I always have thoughts. And the thoughts are more about the Judeo-Christian storytelling moves of all dominant television shows of the 1960s, 70s, 80s. How in the 90s and 2000s, I think they found some ways to find some to take different stabs at it, but it was always very, very Christian. And I think that this episode was trying to acknowledge that using the term Red Angel, that was going to be a thing for every single episode for this entire season, but they aren't specifically. I think that this was the showrunners speaking through Michael Burnham to a certain extent to say, hey, when we're saying Red Angel, that can mean anything that it needs to mean for the purposes of the story. We're not only referencing Christian mythologies. That's Claudia's take.
I appreciate that, and I will say, because I was raised in Catholic and more Judeo-Christian backgrounds, what I realize is I need to do more work as an ally to different spiritual practices to be able to listen for when they talk about all these texts, are the things that they're saying rooted in non-Judeo-Christian religious scripture, text, language, because I definitely recognize at the very end of the episode when All Mother says, peace be with you, and Pike's like, and also with you, I was like, oh, I'm back in Catholic Mass again. So I just want to hold up that even as we're trying to support this diversity in spiritual practice, I mean, I love that they said wicked, right? There were definitely certain moments where I felt that. So I just want to use that as our bridge to just jump into topic number 2, which is Stamets and the mycelial network and the spirituality we get there. I mean, he definitely acknowledges that, as we like to call him on the show, Space Daddy Hugh was there in the network. He helped find him. Stamets has this moment with Tilly where he's like, I saw him, I saw Hugh. And we've been having conversations, first episode and the second episode of the season, about the spirit of the mycelial network, or the spirit of space. So I just wanted to open it up and ask thoughts from the table about this idea of spirit in the mycelial highway. Spirit, Hugh is still there. Like, is he still there?
Well, isn't this the IDIC? This is the IDIC. It's the
infinite diversity and
diversity and yeah. And so I think I thought it was really quite beautiful, the way that Stamets wasn't even making it. He wasn't making it about religion. He was just saying that, like, it's bigger and more encompassing than anything that we can imagine, and that life goes on forever, which I thought was really beautiful. I really like
this. This is Claudia. This is reminding me of the Arthur C. Clarke joke that's made earlier in the episode, where they're saying that they're making the joke that in the future they say that any technology will seem like God if it's from another planet. And I do go, oh yes, what is God? Is God order? Is God spirit? Is God nature? There's a lot of different ways that Star Trek gives you openings to think about that. And the mycelial highway is a beautiful way to think about the universe being connected.
Yes. I don't want to leave Dr. Hugh before I ask you, Maya. Any thoughts on this as you got to hear about Daddy Culber in the network?
I mean, he's definitely saying that, like, even if you talk to some scientists, like, I don't know what specific ones, but they would talk about how our energy never dies, right? So, and that's also what Stamets is talking about. So I think he's negotiating that, that how he understands the network, how he's seen him in there, before he thinks he's just sort of something that the network, kind of created for him to be able to soothe maybe some of his soul, as well as or his science soul, but and also to get through to the next plot point, right, in the mirror universe. But yeah, I mean, and he's all around that ship, and he's negotiating whether he wants to leave it or not. And I don't think like leaving that space actually sort of solves that either, but that energy is still there. And yeah, and who knows, maybe that's one of the ways that he's able to come to some sort of peace, or find him in other ways, or find more stories about Hugh. Yeah, I don't think Hugh's gone, but I think I should leave it there at that. I mean, that's also my hopeful, wishful thinking, but it's also because I've seen season 3.
Because the spoilers tell us so.
Yes, the spirits of the spoilers tell us so, and so it is written.
So it is written, yes. All right, so leaning in on the spirits of the spoilers, I want to jump to topic number 3, and just say the other spirit, and Claudia, you mentioned this earlier, that we don't really know about this mysterious Ensign May. I'm hearing what you said during Popcorn Recap, and is she a ghost? Like, what's up with May? What do we... And then there's this kind of smack pop, that's what I'm calling the smack pop at the end, where we discover the real life May has died. So I'm just wondering, I just want to loop to this conversation, Tilly and Saru in the med bay. We get stories about May. We're trying to understand if she's true. I just want to invite folks to jump in on this topic before we move on.
I really love how Saru is giving he's giving Tilly some real talk about, like, if you want to be the boss, you got to take care of yourself too. And he shows a real, like, love for her, and is trying to show her how to love herself, that even though you want to love your friends and take care of them, you also have to take care of yourself, and that you're a priority. And I really love that. I thought that was a good lesson for all of us to know.
So we get the Maya, I'm going to jump to you. Thoughts about May? I know we had a conversation in our prep about some of your feels about her.
May creeps me out, and yeah, she's a creepster. I don't know where she came from, but is she helping, or is she leading Tilly down a rabbit hole? That's where I'm at with her. And why is she there all of a sudden and then not there all of a sudden? So that's all I gotta
agree
say.
with you.
Creeps.
Yes. I love how Tilly is like, "Where's Burnham? I need her to yes and me," and that's a very improv thing, right? So It makes sense to me that on this episode where we have an improviser master through Aliza Pearl, that we get a little improv nods from Tilly. Last question. We're in sick bay. We get to see Dr. Pollard for like a hot second. Claudia, just jumping to you, wondering how you feeling about Dr. Pollard in this
Oh my gosh!
amalgamation.
Oh yes, that was a beautiful scene. And Pollard is I don't know what this actress's name is, but she's so good. I think that line had like 4 syllables in it, and she does it so well. I don't remember exactly what she says, but it's just like 3 words, and it's really funny. That was beautiful.
I love it. I love it. So yeah, I know there's more for us to talk about here, and I want to give us some time to absorb not only Dr. Pollard, who I was trying to look up her name. We will have her name by the end of this episode. Because yeah, we don't have a Dr. Hugh, but we have a Dr. Pollard, and I think she says like 6 words, like he is correct, you dead almost, or something like that.
Yes.
Jessica does a lot of face acting. That's super.
She does. She has to work
Looks.
working all the things. So I love it. I know there's more for us to talk about here, but we're going to have a chance to do that later. Okay, so Thematix for us wouldn't be complete if we didn't have a chance to jump into the spoiler zone. So if you're watching us in synchronous order, or you're watching Discovery and you're not beyond episode 2, season 2, then we're going to invite you to join Maya by doodling and maybe muting your audio and paying attention to us visually. If you're watching us in the feed, you'll see a red spoilers alert going on, and when we're done, it'll turn to green. So without further ado, let's go ahead and take this next 3 minutes. Brandon, let's go ahead and enter the spoiler zone.
Incoming transmission.
All right, so we have 3 minutes. I don't know if Maiamama or Claudia, you have burning things. I mean, I try to make space so I can share.
The only burning thing I have is, we keep talking about Dr. Pollard. I feel bad because I know I really want Dr. Pollard to become this huge character, because I think she's interesting and the actress is fun, and I know I'm not going to get my Dr. Pollard payoffs. Maybe the writers will do something for season 4. Okay.
Maybe. Well, I had a couple of things. I just wanted to also mention that, does anyone remember when it was against Starfleet protocol to wear religious symbols, such as like an earring, because you were a
you're not allowed to wear a Bajoran.
And worship the prophets, and then they were like, okay, I guess you can. I just think that that is interesting, because that was more telling of that time in real life that Star Trek The Next Generation was going off of. But also, why has nobody talked about time travel? In this episode in particular, it seems super logical that is the conclusion. We arrived ahead of time to the problem, and nobody's talking about time travel. And I can't remember really. Are they surprised by the fact that they don't? They're like, well, I guess we were meant to be here, but no one says time travel. Bugs me.
But they don't know yet if it. Yeah, that feels like a Star Trek fight. But I would just say, I agree. But I also think you're speaking from a spoiler zone perspective of knowing what we know, that they got there 200 years ago, and that the Red Angel suit actually gives the capability for her to move the whole building. Like, I think that's something that I was like, dude, I want to watch ahead, but I'm trying to watch with us. But I'm just like, I'm having this moment of like, right, doesn't Mother Gabrielle tell us? She basically scoops them up, holds onto the church, and jumps to the, you're right, does the time travel, jumps to the future. So I would say they just don't, Saru's trying to do it in time, in sequence of what he knows when he says that.
I'm also looking forward to Mushroom May and us traveling to her magical kingdom. She's the Mushroom Princess, right? She is Princess Mushroom?
Yes, yeah, 100%. That's exactly what she is. I'm just realizing y'all just made me have a bunch of question marks around some of the plot logics of this of this episode, and I'm going to look into it now. I think that it does such a good job of telling its story. It lets me skip plot logics. What did you have, Dayla? Did you have something else, though, that you wanted to share?
Oh no.
I guess we don't get to hear it. Darn it. I feel like you had something, though, that you were holding.
Transfer of data is complete.
And welcome back from the spoiler zone. I realize Maya may have her headphones off, so she may not know we're back. While we wait for Maya to look up as we all dance in our screens, I want to say that the actress Raven Dauda is who plays Dr. Tracy Pollard.
Raven Dauda! So,
yes, we are grateful to her. We're waving at Maya, and we're grateful to Raven for playing for playing for her portrayal. She doesn't just play, but her portrayal of Dr. Pollard. We're super excited about that. And yeah, the last thing I want to say as Maya puts her headphones on is that Dr. Pollard reminds me a little of Nurse Ogawa on Star Trek Next Generation in terms of being another sick bay crew member who we could know their name. We could see her regularly. Patty Yasutake, I believe, plays Nurse Ogawa. So yes, Raven Dauda. Now we're going to know Dauda. We're going to learn how to say your name. We're so glad that you're there. You work everything you have and more. So we're grateful. Maya, are you ready to do a little doodle share with us? And
we can't hear you at all. We can't hear you. I think
we can't hear
did
you.
the chorizo
I like
block.
to mime. I also like to mime on a podcast. Is that possible? Because it's not always about me and the voice. But I drew a battery cell. It's a battery cell. I'm gonna try to get it closer. I want to show. There we go. Battery cell.
There it is.
Which
that's very good.
It says, I shouldn't be giving you this, but it's a battery cell and maybe also a thermos. Because I feel like as I drew it, it looked like a thermos for some space coffee or space tea.
Yes. Thank you, Maya, for showing us your doodle, and thank you to everybody who's joined us back. And those are our thoughts on Thematix for Star Trek Discovery Season 2, Episode 2, New Eden. And if you want to help us continue to hold Trek space for women of color and our allies, then we invite you to support us on patreon.com/TrekTable.
And as we head into our final Trek Table question, number 3. Wait, what was that about World War III? Mira que regresa el maldito. Viene con las manos llenitas de piedra que no quiere arrojar. Y'all, what was they talking about with World War III? Why is Star Trek, this utopian vision of the future, telling me stories about what could be my present? That are very scary. Can we just have a really quick exchange about this? I'm going to start with you, I'm going to start with Maiamama. What do you think?
Oh, well, I was thinking about it was mentioned in the encounter at Farpoint that World War III happens. I don't know. That's not a spoiler. It's not. Also,
well, it's a spoiler for all of Star Trek: The Next Generation.
For like
that's
5
a big
minutes
spoiler.
of the very first episode. Okay, it's like 5 minutes of the very, very first episode, and so everyone, you'll be fine. I didn't say anything about that.
This is also reminding me of that one episode of Deep Space Nine, where they go back in time, and it's kind of set in the nowish times, and it feels really prescient, like really about what's going on today. Dayla, what was your take on this World War III talk?
Well, when I heard that, I thought of, isn't that where we come after when we go to, in the movie First Contact, when we meet Zephyr Cochrane, And the character who is played by Alfre Woodard, I need to learn her character name. I just always see Alfre Woodard. But it just made me think about they've survived the apocalypse of World War III. So I don't know about World War III, but I know there's some more Star Trek REI, Star Trek Columbia outlet costuming happening in First Contact. So just want to say that's what I thought of right away was like, oh, right, First Contact happens after World War III. So
okay, you're making me feel a little bit better about the chronology of events. So, like, we've got the horrible dystopian thing that we're living through now that that Deep Space Nine was talking about, but we survived World War III. Maya, did you have any takes or opinions on World War III-ness of it all?
Yeah, no, it was shocking. It's definitely, a marker of, like, I think always growing up in being always having sort of an enemy, right? In that they're building this large military industrial complex is always like, well, we want to prevent World War III, or this World War III might happen. So in our lifetimes, in this timeline, saying something like World War III is definitely a shocker. So I think it helps us place that community a little bit better, and their fears and what they've rebuilt after the fact. But other than that, I was like, wait, what? Is this something I'm supposed to know about?
Well, thank you for allowing me to process. I did truly have a moment of being like, World War III, that's stressing me out. So thank you all for helping me to process it. And that is all for our Trek Table questions for this season, for this episode 2 of season 2, New Eden.
And here at the Trek Table, we'd like to signal boost and hold space for Black, Indigenous, Brown women and women of color. So we want to amplify resources and highlight the work of women of color content creators, community builders, and world shapers.
We want to amplify and remind folks to check out all the shows on the Women at Warp Infinite Diversity in Infinite Combinations Festival, July 17th and 18th. You can hear more from SyFy Sistas, Sci-Fi Feminists, and more like us. And check out womenatwarp.com/IDIC Fest for the full schedule.
I want to invite you to check out Electra, adapted from Euripides by Audrey and Kennedy and directed by our very own Claudia Alick. Euripides' 2,500-year-old play comes into vivid life in Audrey and Kennedy's poetic language, dynamic digital design, and the equitable aesthetics of access and anti-racism. The play reminds us we are all Clytemnestra, we are the chorus, we are Electra. You can watch Electra at the Women Theater Festival, an all virtual play festival scheduled for, it started yesterday and it'll go for the next 2 weekends in July. Tickets are available for those 2 performances of Electra. We highly encourage you to check it out. We'll drop it in the chat and our episode notes.
We also want to amplify our very own De La, aka Alison De La Cruz. They are hosting an interesting talk about inspiration with theater legend Rose Portillo on the Network of Ensemble Theater's YouTube channel. Come hear tips from this veterana of stage, screen, and community about how she survived and what what brings her inspiration. You can watch on the Net YouTube channel by clicking the link that we're going to drop in the chat, or by visiting www.ensembletheaters.net.
Yes, and if you have a woman of color creator that you want us to amplify, let us know in a DM at Trek Table Instagram or at Trek Table 1 on Twitter, and we will be sure to do that. And that was our signal boost for Trek Table episode number 19. All right, we want to say thank you all so much for joining us for this epic 19th episode of the Trek Table. We've had our very first spotlight guest. We're so excited. Even Aliza gave us some of her final thoughts about this episode. And so now I want to come to our table assembled and ask you for your final thoughts on Star Trek Discovery Season 2, Episode 2 on New Eden.
Yeah, it's always interesting when they leave the spaceship and have to deal with these sort of core values, whether they are, who are they protecting? You know, are they protecting themselves? Are they protecting the community? Why do they feel a paternalistic need to protect and allow people to make decisions for themselves? And yeah, the idea of science versus religion, or whether it's really a versus thing, or if it's you know, storytelling, mythology, being able to ask questions and figure out, you know, what came before, and what you can learn from what came before.
I am meditating on this post-apocalyptic utopian vision that you have now helped me to sort of warm myself up and into. You know, the church on Terra Lyceum, the idea that at the end of it all, that humanity, if everything was gone, at the end of it all, they would all come together and figure it out and say, you know what? All of our faiths can be this one thing. We can find a way to do this together. There's something really beautiful about the idea of Terra Lyceum, and I love an episode that makes me go through ethical thoughts, and this episode is full of just ethical thought dilemmas. Is it right for Jacob to do violence to try and prove that he is right and he is accurate? Were they doing violence to Jacob by lying to Jacob? Was it right for them to use Jacob's faith and the tenets of Jacob's faith against Jacob when they're like, hey, and calling him out, using that language, using that framework? Is it okay for Jacob to know the answer and then to not share it with the rest of the people, or is that what's going to happen? So I love the beautiful prime directive questions that these episodes offer. So this gave my brain lots of different things to noodle on. It was lots of fun.
My final thoughts, I just think about how in season 2, episode 1, titled Brother, when we meet Pike, we hear Burnham, we see Detmer, we see Awosakun prove to him that we as a crew got you, right? There's a lot of explanation there. One of my favorite moments in this episode is when Saru is taking care of Pike right before he experiences the spore drive jump. And so I'm just going to quote. Saru says, "Questions or concerns before we depart, Captain?" And then Pike says, "If you're telling me that this ship can skip across the universe on a highway made of mushrooms, I kind of have to go on faith." Saru nods, and then Captain Pike says, "Be bold, be brave, be courageous, black alert." So I just leave us with that to say, yes, let us go on the faith that we can and continue to be bold, be brave, be courageous. Black alert is the alert I am here for. And my favorite little sound bite is the noise that Pike makes after his first jump. So those are my final thoughts today.
I am also on Team Pike, 100%. I love the way that he can not toxically lead 2 Black women on an away mission, stay in command and not belittle them in any way, shape, or form, and allow them to share their opinions in a way, again, that we did not have with the previous captain, which I'm not sure if I've been clear. I do not like, and never. I'm not sure if I really let you guys know how I felt about Lorca. But I did not like him, and I really love Pike. I love his gentle heart that still is a fierce protector of both the ideals of the of Starfleet and the Federation, but also his own personal ideals, because he grew up in a kind of a religious household, and so I think that he is probably my favorite captain, and I might have a crush on him. He's the best Pike, also. I think we can all agree on that.
And this is our final thoughts on Star Trek Discovery Season 2, Episode 2, New Eden.
Thank Thank you all for joining us at the Trek Table. Get first look at the Trek Table questions, inside scoops, and more when you sign up for our mailing list at www.trektablepodcast.com.
And find Trek Table Podcasts on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and wherever you get your podcasts.
Yes, and don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel so that you get more Trek Table in your algorithms.
Like and subscribe to us on Instagram or Facebook at Trek Table and on Twitter at Trek Table 1. Join our convos there and please comment using the hashtags Trek Table, hashtag the IWOC Trek, and hashtag Star Trek Discovery.
Yes, and we just want to say thank you so much. We want to share gratitude with Claudia, Maia, and Maiamama for holding it down as our hosts today. Big special thanks to our guest, Aliza Pearl. Thank you all for sharing your insights. Thanks to everybody who's been in our YouTube chat today. Super amazing. Let's just, as we close out this ritual, let's begin this departing process, I want to call it. So we started this show saying that we were going to hold Trek space for folks trying to figure out the space between science, spirit, and religion. We're holding Trek space for rule makers and rule breakers. We're holding Trek space for anyone experiencing chronic illness gracefully, and the caretakers who are in it for the long haul. For the family that we are born in with and the family that we make. We're here for naps and generally just getting rest. Today we also wanted to hold Trek space for those who speak up for the compatibility of religion and science, and who are not mutually exclusive, but that they are complementary. So let's take a little breath in, all those things we're still holding from Trek space. Exhale. We want to say thank you to the Trek Table production team, executive producers Alison, Cruz, and Luz Jariwala. Thanks to production coordinator Brandon Chang. Thank you artist coordinator Terry Hashimoto, social media manager Lisa Isil Borlasa, stage manager Ariana Michelle.
Deep gratitude and thanks to Outside In Theater, with extra thanks to Arlo and Alex.
Thanks to Visual Communications, and thanks to all our friends across the Star Trek universes.
Yes. Trek Table is a service mark of De La Projects LLC. We want to say thank you for joining us for this epic ritual today. We're going to close out this session today with another big breath. And don't forget, you can find us Saturday, July 17th at the Women at Warp Festival, or join us on Sunday, July 18th for that rebroadcast. Let's take one more big breath in. And exhale. Thank you. We'll see you on the 17th or 18th. We're holding Trek space for you till then. Have a great week.
communicating now through rippling